like to start off with a recitation from the Holy Quran, which would be presented by Zakaria Ahmed.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام.
I welcome you all with the greeting of peace, the greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, I will try to be brief. Really, truly honored to have all of our supporters, our allies, our partners in the fight, our volunteers, other staff, and the board members present today, all together in a single place. To our supporters, we started this chapter of this organization more than a decade ago. And at that time, we didn't have any budget, with a handful of volunteers that served maybe the client that you could count on a single hand. And today, by the grace of Allah, the Almighty, we have grown over this past many, many years where we had the responsibility to serve an annual 300 clients per year, and we're still growing. It's all possible by the grace of Almighty and by your support, so we thank you all.
Our special guest this evening is Abukar Arman. He's the former Somalia Special Envoy to the United States. He's also a writer and whose analysis and commentaries on international affairs, Islam, the Middle East, and Horn of Africa have been widely published. He blogs regularly at the Huffington Post and at Foreign Policy Association and works with Al Jazeera. Please welcome Abukar Arman.
I'll try to make short, inshallah. But I was assigned to talk about two things that oftentimes people avoid talking about. Because my statement, or the few minutes that I will take, I'll be covering two issues that are oftentimes people do not discuss. But these are the two issues that really drive our world. They dictate what we do and what we don't, what's right and what's wrong, and so forth and so on. Alhamdulillah, those of you who came for this evening and knew exactly what you were coming for, you were looking forward to these two issues that oftentimes people avoid, which is politics and religion and where they intersect. They create a lot of problems in this world, as we all know. And we are living in an age of extremism. About 8 or 10 years ago, wrote an article called Islam in the Age of Extremism. Recently, as I was reflecting on the situations that we all witness or know through the news, whether it is what's happening in the United States, whether it is overseas, He said, maybe I should have waited for another 8 years and wrote it today. It would have gotten wider coverage. Because what it was talking about is how we are caught in the age of extremism from both sides, driven by paranoia and ignorance. And I think the chairman already mentioned how the ignorance is a key factor. Now, you have one group that's oftentimes covered. They're the ones that fit the stereotype. They're the ones that we see oftentimes on the news. They're the ones who are angry and appears like he's about to blow up something. And then you have the nicer looking, much more like the Armani version of extremism. And they're dressed much better. They have their PR people. Their statements are well prepared. And when they slip and make the wrong comment, there's always an army of defenders that either spin it or make it look like it was okay. And he just have or she had just a bad day. So we are living in that age. This is not just to show the situation as hopeless. It's not. But it is, we have to kind of bring ourselves to the point to understand what time is it and really go from there, how we can address some of these issues. Not too long ago, and I'll share with you some personal experience that I had encountering some of these ignorances. A friend of ours who is, I come from Columbus, Ohio. Those of you from Ohio can give me that support. So the friend said that I spotted this pickup truck, and it had a bumper sticker on it. And the bumper sticker read, God, Allah wants you dead, and Jesus wants you saved. That's what the bumper sticker said. Now, everyone who has religious sensitivity would understand how provocative such a statement is, regardless of who makes it. You know, whether if you reverse the names and you put the other way, of course, you're provoking other people. Apparently, this individual did not have that sensitivity. So his neighbor realized what was happening. And in those days, the individual approached us and told us about it. So we opted, and we, in this case, because I was serving as a volunteer with CAIR, coincidentally, in those days. So we decided just to explore the individual and kind of show him that we're normal people. We're not really as bad as he thinks. And maybe if we kind of engage the individual, we would have a better opportunity to get to know one another and then ease his concern and paranoia or whatever the case is, or anger for that matter. So guess what we did? We asked that neighbor to take us to the person's house. On the day that we were supposed to meet and go together, the neighbor didn't show up, so we ended up just going to the house and taking the risk and just knocking on the door with big smiles on our face. And it was not really a good idea. Nowadays, I wouldn't even suggest it. But I just want to share that with you. So we did. Sometimes that kind of naivete kind of shows that you as a person don't mean harm. So we went there and just said, knocked on the door, and then his wife opened. His wife, because it was the husband apparently who owned that truck. So we asked her, and she said, it's my husband's, and he will be here tomorrow evening. We told her our concerns so she would give him heads up. And that's exactly what happened. We said, can we come back then? And she said, yeah, sure, why not? So we called the next evening, and then the husband met us at the door, did not invite us in or anything. So he said, what do you guys have to say? So we told him what we were concerned about and so forth and so on. Then he told us why he did that. He said, I hate you guys, just simple as that. He said, I was in Mogadishu and I served. He was in the Marines in the early 90s, as you may recall. And the experience was not really a good experience. So what he said is that I don't trust any of you, and I think that expresses how I feel. So luckily, I'm from Somalia. So I just told him, brother, let me just explain something to you. I have 4 children. This lady, the sister who was with me, she had at the time 3. And then the other brother who was with me, 4. He said, between us, we have 11 children. Do you think if there is anyone in here to harm, to cause harm? Because initially what he said, that the part that I forgot, is that he said in those days they were saying that hand-carried nuclear might be, in the hands of terrorists and what have you, and that was creating the paranoia. So he was concerned about that, and it's a legitimate concern. So I said, 11 children of ours, do you think if I know somebody's about to harm the city, I would not be the first one to jump on that person? So he kind of relaxed after that. And we started, after that, at least a day or 2 before he moved from the city.
I just wanted to say, really, it is a tremendous honor to see so many of you in this room today. This week alone, we had several press conferences and rallies. We had a number of new intakes and interviews. We even had, as our board chairman Basit mentioned, even threats. But this year has been like that for us. Starting with January, the beginning of what we saw as to be the Muslim ban version 1, version 2, 3.1, 3.3, and we don't know what's next. But I'll tell you something. Every time something happened in this community, look around the people in this room. You all played a role in that response. In Minneapolis, we had thousands of people that came together after the Muslim ban and rallied in the middle of the day, in the middle of a busy night, came out in the streets and marched and protested. Actually, we didn't even know how many people were showing up. And Minneapolis was not the only place people came out to. All over this country. CAIR Minnesota, 10 years ago, started with a mission to serve. And we are doing that today. But tonight, we're also talking about moving forward. And I want to just highlight a few things that I want to keep you in mind. As we move forward, we realize even now, greater than any other time, we need to build even bigger, stronger coalition. We realize that we have to fight to defend the Constitution, and we have to dust off, some of us, those old shoes that used to march with and protest with. And for some of us, we have to learn how to protest and march peacefully. But we realize we have the power. The people do. And every time this administration challenges the people and the Constitution, we get calls from people all over this country, all over this state, who say, we will not let that happen. And it would take me a long time to just name the number of people here today who I see, who reflect back, who called us in our office right after some of these incidents, and particularly against the Muslim ban and others, who said, how can we help? What can we do? And that is really what we have seen consistently. And that's why this room tonight, it is nearly 3 times the size last year it was. As we move forward, we realize we need more money, but really we need more hearts, more people. We are ambitious in the next generation and the years to come, in the next 10 years, to build bigger and stronger coalitions. We want to get ahead of the hate crime by preventing it, by educating people across the state, by lifting the fear with information and love. This past year, we started a campaign, and we challenged thousands of Minnesotans to take part of it. We, on March 25th, had an event where 1,000 people came together and said no to hate. Some of you were part of that. And we're going to continue to do that because we know that hate is starting to show its ugly self. But every single time something happens, so much positive overwhelms it. As we move forward in the next 10 years, we are going to also protect the largest group of people that we have served over the last 10 years. The biggest casework for us in the last 10 years have been employees working at work who have to make a decision between their job and their faith. And we're always at the end after an incident happened. And so this year, I'm glad to announce to you with the partnership of SEIU Local 26, we've started the Award Center, a center that will help educate, particularly new immigrants, to understand their rights, to understand their full rights, and be able to self-help at those jobs. And if that doesn't happen, CAIR is there, and we will always be there. One of our new initiatives as well as we move forward is really strengthening our community. Part of our mission is to empower the American Muslim community. And here in Minnesota, we want to empower the most hardworking centers, Islamic centers across the state. We have now, the latest number, 77 mosques in Minnesota. That's just mosques and locations. We have started a project now called Community Empowerment. Some of you leaders will be hearing about it. Some of you already know about it. Some of you are already working on it. We are going to help your community. We're going to train people in your centers to be able to respond, to be able to grow your center, and to be able to meet the challenges that so many of our organizations need to meet. We are ambitious in the next 10 years. You know, I remember talking to Hassan and some of the folks, particularly early last year, and one thing I remember Nihad Awad, our chairman, our executive director of our national office, saying, he said, during September 11, we were a small organization. Very small organization. We didn't have that many chapters. We weren't. But he said, right now, we have so many organizations, 35 chapters across the United States. We've been preparing ourselves for this moment, for the Trump administration. And I believe that with your support tonight and as we move forward, whatever challenges that this administration's and other issues and the anti-Muslim organizing, whatever those elements do exist, we have you have us, and we have God. And so tonight I ask you to, first of all, to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of you for showing up, for being there for us. Our staff are the hardest working folks I can find. Day and night we deal with crises, whether they are in our favor or not. And particularly for all of our families and my wife, people who just have to roll their eyes as another call comes in, thank you also for the families who continue to sacrifice to get us to get where we have to be. All right, so this part we would like to, at all of our banquets, we take a moment to recognize individuals in our community who continuously to uphold really the mission and the focus of CAIR. And we have 3 categories, obviously, and champion of justice and mutual understanding. This is really at the heart of what CAIR does. So tonight, our first awardee goes to Amaya Zafar. And I want to just tell a story, first of all. Amaya is not like any young girl. Amaya is someone who continuously fought, not just with her gloves, but really with her passion. And she was persistent. Alhamdulillah, she has a very loving and supporting family. We fought tooth and nail to get her story out, but really it was all about her. And this past year, I know Minnesota, we have a lot of things that we've done historically, but in the history of the United States, and probably ever, the first ever female Muslim boxer who wore hijab and actually contested and played. This is a historical moment. 2017 is starting to look like the year the women have fought back. And I want to just say, Tonight we are honoring a young Muslim who has continuously fought and has opened Amaya Savar. Please help me congratulate her with this hour.
Really tall. Ding goes the bell and thump goes the heart. No, that's not fear. It's the thrill of the start. I have the eye of the tiger and the sting of a bee. Keep the cameras moving. Can't catch what you can't see. The jungle will rumble as my feet start to dance. Take your best shot. I won't give a second chance. Is that a bird? Is that a plane? You see my fist start to whirl. Pow! Your chin just discovered Superman is a girl. That's a poem written for me by Brother Dash. My name is Amaya. I'm an amateur boxer and I fight in hijab. I have been training for 4 long years. Just this April, we got the rule changed so that I can finally compete with hijab. In April of 2017, I was the first to box with hijab in a USA Boxing amateur sanctioned fight. My journey so far has been one of great barakah, sacrifice, and self-awareness. Being a hijabi in the sport of boxing to some may seem weird, but to me it's simply being my natural self. Alhamdulillah, I was honored to be the first to compete in hijab, as I'm honored to accept this award today. Thank you.
Our next awardee is Burhan Muhammad, and Burhan will be receiving the 2017 Rising Champion of Justice and Mutual Understanding. And unfortunately, Burhan is not here tonight. He's doing the good fight somewhere else. But to accept his award is his sister. I want to just share with you who Burhan is. Some of you may know who Burhan is. Some of you may really know who Burhan is. But Burhan is someone in our community who has been continuously fighting, organizing with the youth, and particularly in the most difficult time. I know during the Trump time, it is so easy to be on the side of Muslims. And perhaps it's a cool thing to do. But during Obama, when the Countering Violence Extremism program was happening, when so many negative stigmatization of our community were happening, where so many young kids were asking questions, they could turn to Burhan. And Burhan was able to work with those youth and particularly, not just himself, but an entire movement of young people who today are making an impact, raising their voices, and being heard. And so today, with the honor of giving to his wife, to his sister, inshallah he'll have a wife soon. I think I just declared for him, but inshallah with his honor, it will be his sister Burhan.
I wasn't expecting to give a speech. I thought I would just come up here, grab that, and run, but I'm honored to accept this award on behalf of Burhan. I guess Burhan at home, we like to call him modern-day Malcolm X. He's very strong, and he seems to be, he's focused on helping the youth, and he's been focused on that since we were young. And I guess we're very proud of him at home. I don't have a lavish speech to give you guys, but thank you guys for honoring him. That means a lot to us.
This year, we're honoring Wais and Kishar Bayunis, and as the 2017 Lifetime Champion of Justice and Mutual Understanding. And I know you will read the bio, and this is a short and abbreviated bio. What Brother Wais and Sister Kishwar means to this community is really immense, particularly in the area of outreach, interfaith dialogue. These two individuals have made a tremendous mark in the history of actual interfaith dialogue in this country. not just interfaith dialogue, but history by making some of the oldest interfaith dialogue in the country. I remember as a young kid, 15, 14, going to the Islamic Center of Minnesota, and I used to play basketball. So after everybody cleared out the gym after prayers, I was one of those kids rolling up the rug and putting things away, and was the last person in the gym until my dad had to pull me out. But we were not the last people on Sunday there. Brother Uwais used to hold and still holds a Christian-Muslim dialogue that used to begin right at around that time. And I remember walking into these spaces where people had these rich conversations. I know now it's a really cool thing to do interfaith, but the people who have been doing it, have been teaching it, have been standing up for it, to build that mutual understanding is this powerful couple who have left with us so tremendous shoes for many of us to fill. And tonight, I want all of you, please help me honor, please, with a standing ovation for Brother Uwais and Sister Kiswa.
I'm really humbled by this prestigious honor, and I congratulate you on your 10th anniversary. Please keep up the good work of advocacy for justice that you're doing, which is very essential in the political atmosphere that we have today. I wish you well and wish you success in your future endeavors, and thank you again for this award.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear friends and colleagues, dear brothers and sisters in Islam, dear religious leaders and bridge builders in our community, and all those who are present here, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May God's peace be with you all the times. It's a great honor and privilege for me to stand here and receive CAIR's Lifetime Achievement Award. I am greatly humbled to receive this prestigious prize, and I would like to thank CAIR, its organizing committee, and the very dynamic executive director, Brother Jailani Hussain, from the bottom of my heart. And also I would like to thank Brother Abdul Basit, the board chair, for this. Since moving to this great state of Minnesota 3 decades ago, about 30 years ago, since moving to this great bastion of the North, I have dedicated my personal life to educating the community through interfaith dialogues and community activism. It's worth mentioning here that to introduce Islam, we had organized 2 regional conferences for the Islamic Center of Minnesota as early as 1990s. And we developed a close relationship with St. Thomas University, University of Minnesota, and eventually made a beautiful partnership with the Minnesota Council of Churches. Also, it's worth mentioning here something very close to my heart, my involvement in promoting and advancing the interfaith dialogue at the Islamic Center of Minnesota, whose participation grew from 6 to 7 people in the beginning to about 50 people of Abrahamic faith now. It's a dialogue that is really close to my heart. As it was established, can you imagine 10 years before 9/11, people had the foresight to establish an interfaith dialogue when people did not know its need. This year will mark 28 years of a dialogue which has been hailed by some professors from Georgetown University as the longest continuously running interfaith dialogue in the nation. 10 of these years, I was its chair. I had the good opportunity of knowing and working with Brother Nihad Awad, CAIR's founder when he was a student of U of M and member of the Islamic Center. Since the inception of CAIR, I have always been a strong supporter of this organization as it protects some of the basic rights of American Muslims. The most important lesson we get from CAIR is that you should never, never give up. Even if you are convinced that it is all over, it's not over unless you want it to be. Maybe just move on peacefully. I share this award with each and every one of you and would like to pass on the torch to our youth who are holding up the flag to justice, diversity, and strengthening our ties with community at large. The one person whom I am thankful for all these works is my better half, my wife Kishwar, who has walked step by step with me all the way. Thanks, Kishwar. Let me close the words with Chinese philosopher Confucius. He said, "Choose a job you love, and you will never have to work a day in your life." I wonder how quickly have these past 30 years went by. I don't know. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our efforts and guide all of us to the ultimate gardens underneath which rivers flow, and convey our salam and peace to Prophet Muhammad. Peace be upon him. Ameen. And thank you very much.
I would like to also, at this moment, recognize this past year we lost CAIR, and this entire community in Minnesota. We lost our dear friend, our brother, mentor, Brother Abdel Nasser Hussein. I have to say, when the decision came to join CAIR and be the executive director, there was many reasons, trust me, why it's a difficult job to take on. But the one person I remember that nudged me over was Abdel Nasser. He was tireless. He was the person that would call me if there was something that happened. And this past year, after struggling with cancer, he passed away. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make him of those in the highest paradise of Jannah, Jannatul Firdaus al-A'la. In memory of him and his great sacrifice for this community, and for what he has done and what he meant to not only CAIR, but to really our community, CAIR Minnesota announces that we will now have a brand new summer law clerkship in his honor, the Abdel Nasser Hussein Summer Law Clerkship, which will be the first full-time summer law clerkship for L2 and L3 students. And so tonight, I just want us to remember and hold up this great champion, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as I said earlier, to really grant him the highest paradise. And tonight also with us is his family. So with that, I would like to now turn the moment a little bit. We've changed a little bit of the plan. As you all know, there are many executive directors at CAIR that are very loud, very heard about, and trust me, for me, I'm always annoyed by Brother Hassan Shibli, because somebody in Minnesota tells me, "Jailani, what is this?" I always get these videos of Hassan Shibli giving people advice not to talk to somebody. I won't say who. But I have to say, we're really honored to have this amazing leader who is running one of the biggest states in Florida. Hassan Shibli is the executive director for CAIR Florida. He's someone who really all of you have probably seen, all of you have been impacted, and is someone the CAIR family truly loves. And tonight, I want him to be here. I was joking with him. I was like, this is a little fundraiser. And he's like, "Where do you do it?" And then I was like, "We're going to start around a couple of thousand." He's like, "What? This many people in the room?" I'll let him explain from there. Please, we'll bring on Hassan Shibli.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله. Alhamdulillah. I'm very excited to be here with all of you because it's a tremendous blessing and an honor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has chosen us. He has selected us for the most noble of missions, for the greatest of causes, for that which is most beloved to Him. And that is to establish justice in this land. That is to stand up for the oppressed. That is to empower the weak. That is to be the aid for the victims of discrimination and abuse. That is to be the source of peace and compassion and most importantly relief for those who face oppression for no other reason than they say, La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah. Or who face oppression for no reason other than the color of the skin that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed them with, or the beautiful diversity of the tongue that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed them with. Because as people of faith, we recognize that to engage in acts of discrimination is to offend our Creator before we are even offending His creation. For it is Allah's rahmah that He has given us the differences in our colors and our languages. And those whose hearts is filled with ignorance engage in acts of discrimination. And those whom Allah has honored and blessed become champions for those who are discriminated against because of the blessings in their diversity that Allah has given them with. And we know within our faith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he spoke about the pact of the virtuous. That was when the leaders of Mecca agreed that they would stand for those who are oppressed. And this was in the days before Islam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam spoke of the greatness of such a pact. So I'm really, really, really grateful to Allah right now to be standing before all of you. And I ask all of you to take a moment to look into your hearts and thank your Creator for honoring you to be here tonight, for honoring you to have the desire in your heart to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. When I look at people like the current President of the United States and I see his state, I'm grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that my heart, God willing, is not like his heart. That while he's working to promote fear and hate and division, Allah's honored me and honored all of us to work for peace, compassion, and unity. This is a blessing from Allah, and it isn't anything that I could say I deserved. Rather, Allah honored us with this. And had He willed, He could have sealed our hearts and we could be out there promoting hate instead of in here promoting justice. And I want to look back on this day. I want to look back at this night, on the day that I meet my Creator, and hope that He looks at me with love and compassion. And that at that moment we see the value of using our wealth and our resources to defend His deen and to defend His creation. For we cannot honor our Creator without service to His creation. Show mercy to those in earth, and the one in heavens will show mercy to you. The one who helps his brother, Allah will be in his help or her help. These are promises from our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we're here today not to tell our fellow Americans what we are not, but to show them what we are. To show them our love for Rasulullah and the beautiful message that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam imbued within us. That we are champions of justice. That we will help the poor and the needy and the oppressed. And we will challenge Islamophobia, we will challenge hate, and we will challenge discrimination with our effort, with our sweat, and yes, with our wealth. And if we are honored to use our wealth and our energy to defend Allah's deen and the servants of Allah and the creation of Allah, then that is the greatest of gifts that Allah can gift us with. Because on that day we will see the value of our wealth today. Imagine having the legacy forever with the prophets and the martyrs. That they were the people who, when Islam was under attack and Muslims were under attack, just today I was watching a video of a man swinging a bat at a Muslim family and the father had to go to the hospital with a fractured rib. This is the effect of Islamophobia. Just the other day, a man was arrested planning to shoot up the masjid that my mother attends, the masjid that I sometimes give khutbah in. This is the effect of the hate that is being promoted from the White House today. But I'm grateful to Allah that hopefully we can establish our legacy tonight as those who used our wealth and our reputation to defend Allah's deen, and those who are oppressed because of their love for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And tonight, not only are we not telling people what we are not, but we are showing them what we are. But tonight, we ask Allah to bless us with the ability to show that our love is greater than their hatred. You know, for some time I practiced estate planning, and I would see the enormous amounts of wealth that our community has. And when I saw that, it really troubled me, because I asked my teacher a question saying the Islamophobia industry, as CAIR has documented in our website, Islamophobia.org, has spent over $200 million to demonize Islam and Muslims in America. And this is a threat not just to the Muslim community, but to all Americans and all humanity. Because Islamophobia is the tool right now that is used politically to undermine freedom. You know what the greatest threat was in the Muslim ban? It wasn't just that we were discriminating against human beings because of their religion, but it was that the President of the United States actually argued before the Supreme Court through his lawyers that he had the authority, and this is in the 9th District Court of Appeals arguments. The President made the argument that he had the authority to make laws that were not consistent with the Constitution and that could not be reviewed by courts. Not on my watch, mister. Not on my watch. And that's why when I asked Jailani, what are we going to do with the money we raised tonight? He said, we're going to hire more lawyers to hold those in authority accountable and to defend the oppressed, and we will do it through your support, inshallah. So I'm excited for that. But see how Islamophobia undermines freedom for all Americans. And it's also a tool that's used to escalate conflict in the world, to shed the lives of innocents. Let us not forget that our tax dollars were used to enact sanctions in Iraq before the illegal invasion of Iraq that led to the deaths of 500,000 children. And when Madeleine Albright was asked, do you think the price of those 500,000 brown Arab Muslim children is worth it? What's her answer? Yes, we think the price is worth it. Why? That's the effect of the Islamophobia industry. It dehumanizes its Muslim victims. So it allows undermining civil rights domestically. In Tennessee, they tried to pass a law that practicing Islam is treason, punishable by 20 years in jail. That offends me as an American. And look at the look of shock on our young boxer here, who I hope is going to really take our community to the next level, kicking some, well, I'll be... But really, we need to fight Islamophobia so she can keep fighting for us. To make an environment where our children feel safe, to proudly represent who they are and what they're about, and show the beauty of our faith. But Islamophobia, you must understand, and this is why tonight I'm not just expecting donations from the Muslims in the room. We're all in this together, brothers and sisters in humanity. Over $200 million has been used to undermine freedom domestically and escalate conflict globally. And we are in the best position to challenging Islamophobia. We are in the best position to challenge Islamophobia, and by successfully challenging Islamophobia, not through just a volunteer effort, but through a professional team of attorneys, media experts who will fight for you from the newsroom to the courtroom. Through that, we can successfully challenge Islamophobia and keep America a free and just nation for all people at home, and promote peace and save lives throughout the world. That is what your support will do tonight. All I ask is that Allah honors us with the determination and the faith and the ability to spend from what we love, seeking His pleasure to serve His creation. That's what tonight's about. It's just a matter of how much. And you know what? One person's $10 may be more valuable than another person's $10,000. So don't belittle what you can give. Make sincere prayer in your heart. Say, Ya Allah, honor me. Use my wealth to defend your deen and to defend those who are oppressed for following your deen and to defend your creation who's oppressed because of their race or their religion. So I asked my teacher, I said, we have so much wealth. And why is it? Why is it that the Islamophobes spend over $200 million to demonize Islam? And in the United States, we have so many wealthy Muslims, but we really don't find the same kinds of resources being used to fight Islamophobia. His answer was very simple. He said, when it comes to engaging in oppression and injustice and attacking the deen, Allah lets whoever wants spend as much as they want. He doesn't care. But when it comes to defending the deen and defending justice and defending the oppressed, that is a great honor. And Allah only saves it for those whom He loves. May Allah make us of those whom He loves. And if you don't give, recognize. It's not that you're not giving, is it that Allah is holding you back from this honor? Don't be held back tonight. Allah doesn't hold anybody back who wants to be forward. So strive to be at the forefront of giving tonight, that you can be at the forefront on that day, God willing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and this is truth, because charity is a proof of our faith. Because you're literally giving from what you have in front of you, expecting that which you cannot see from Him. That's a proof of your faith. And tonight's an opportunity to prove to Allah your faith and your trust in Him, your faith in His message and the message of His messenger who said charity will never decrease your wealth.
Back in 2009, I was an office administrator in one of the mosques. And CAIR, Minnesota was about 2 years old at the time. And we faced a big challenge, those of us who were working in the Islamic Center at the time. It was a time that the government was doing a big investigation that was related to terrorism. And the FBI and other law enforcement agencies were interrogating a lot of people. And the community were coming to the mosque to me for guidance. And I was not prepared for that at all. So when I looked around the community, I found CAIR, Minnesota, especially those pioneers who started this chapter, Lori Soroya, Kashif, Taniza Islam, and others. And they were the ones who guided us through that pressure. There was a pressure coming from the law enforcement, from the media. They guided us with trainings of Know Your Rights, with media trainings. They facilitated a lot of lawyers for those who are being summoned to court. So we're really grateful for the work that CAIR Minnesota is doing. They even brought their national team so they can help us through that mess. So CAIR Minnesota is here for our civil rights. It's a vital part of our community, and I encourage everybody to support with everything that they can, inshallah ta'ala, so we can move forward and defend our rights as law-abiding citizens in the state of Minnesota. With that, I pray to God that God will help everybody who helps this cause, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hooray. Our next speaker is Amsa Lori Soroya, who is National Chapter Director of CAIR National and CAIR Minnesota co-founder. Lori Soroya is an American Muslim, civil rights activist, nonprofit leader, and writer. She's currently the National Chapter Director at the country's leading Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization, the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, as you know. In 2007, Lori identified a need in the community and founded the Council on American Islamic Relations Minnesota, a free legal services nonprofit organization that assists racial, religious, and ethnic minorities in Minnesota facing discrimination. As the executive director of CAIR Minnesota, Lori was the focal point for communications, activities, and programs. She supervised the Civil Rights Department for CAIR Minnesota and led its outreach efforts, including creating a network of 50 Minnesota Muslim attorneys. Lori founded CAIR Minnesota's Positive Interactions training program and helped train corporations, nonprofits, and small businesses on creating a hostile-free work environment and developing effective workplace policies and procedures on religious accommodations. Under Lori's leadership, CAIR Minnesota received numerous awards and recognitions. She was a leadership fellow at the Bush Foundation and a blogger for the Star Tribune's Community Voices section. She's working on her first memoir, a reflective piece on her identity as an American Muslim woman, and a civil rights activist. Please welcome to the stage a true pioneer, Lori Soroya.
So, alhamdulillah, it's been 3 years since I have stood in front of CAIR Minnesota. So this is really exciting for me, alhamdulillah. Thank you for this opportunity. So I left my executive director position at CAIR Minnesota in 2014 after about almost 8 years. And I remember when I left, we were actually getting media calls about it. You know, there was such a big deal that people wanted to know what's next for CAIR Minnesota. What is your reason for leaving this organization? And I told them, you know, my reason was that the building phase of this organization had been completed. You know, we had, mashallah, really strong infrastructure in place that we as a team had focused on building and strengthening. And it was time for new energy and new ideas. And I remember I told them, you know, we're ready to move CAIR Minnesota into its next stage. And now, alhamdulillah, when I look at this crowd and look at all of the accomplishments and achievements, that's exactly what I was talking about. This is the next stage of CAIR Minnesota. So I'm extremely grateful to Jelani and the board and Abdul Basit and his leadership, Sister Kausar Hussein, and the entire team at CAIR Minnesota that has continued this great work and brought this organization this far. So CAIR Minnesota, as you know, was founded 10 years ago, and it was founded on a very basic premise. And that premise is that everyone deserves to be treated with respect and dignity. That was it. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect and dignity. At the time, I was actually a college student, and I was doing a research project on civil rights issues facing Muslims in Minnesota. And when it came time for me to find an organization to do an internship with, I was unable to find an organization in this entire state that was dedicated to resolving civil rights issues facing Muslims in Minnesota. And what I found in my research was very troubling. You know, I found cases of employment discrimination. I found students that were being bullied and schooled. There were land use opposition cases, hate crimes and vandalisms targeting Muslim homes and our mosques and community centers. I found cases of racial and religious profiling at the airport and by the FBI. And it was very shocking to me that there was not a single grassroots Muslim organization working to address these civil rights issues. That was extremely concerning. So what I did then, so actually I wondered, what is happening to all these individuals? What is happening? I mean, there's always a person behind the case. We hear about these cases, and there's always an individual there. What's happening to the woman who loses her job because she refuses to remove her hijab and can't afford an attorney? What's happening to the students who are being bullied and harassed in their schools? Who's helping the mosques that are being denied permits and not allowed to build their Islamic center? And who is tracking that information? Who is documenting and holding people accountable when things like that happen? Who is following up with law enforcement when a hate incident happens and they classify it as another vandalism case or another assault case and don't even pursue a bias motive? Where is that organization that's working to challenge and address and resolve these issues? So there was clearly a major void that needed to be filled. And this is not the direction I was planning to go into. I was going to become a corporate attorney, if you can believe it or not. But alhamdulillah, this is where I was led. And I needed to fill this void. We as a community needed to come together and fill the void. And I'm going to name, alhamdulillah, these people that I went to early on. These are activists and leaders in our community, and the first people that we approached. And it talked about the importance of having a CAIR chapter in this state. So the first person I actually went to was Kashif Saroya, my husband. He's a very active, leader and activist in this community. And I told him, I need your help with this. He doesn't have a civil rights background, but he agreed to help and support me. Zafar Siddiqui, mashallah, with the Islamic Networks, Islamic Resource Group, he, has been supportive from the start, very encouraging. Brother Tamim Zaidi, Fadwa Wazwaz, Valerie Shirley, and Hussein Khatib. These were the founders, the early founders of this organization. And as we grew, I remember we met with Abdul Basit on the second floor of Holy Land and convinced him, actually begged him to join this organization because we needed board members. We approached Sister Kausar and Nashina and others and really brought in talent, people who were sincere, talented, and committed to grow. Our first meeting for CAIR Minnesota was held at the Islamic Center of Minnesota. And I still remember we were in a tiny, I think it was a storage room that had been converted into a meeting room, and there were only 3 people there. And from those 3 people, alhamdulillah, we have been able to build and grow as an organization. And so many of you know that CAIR approaches civil rights issues from many different ways. It takes a multi-pronged approach to addressing and resolving civil rights issues. So that includes legal advocacy, including litigation, civic engagement, coalition building, media, outreach, research, and proactive trainings and education. So there really are a lot of different ways that we're resolving some of the challenges facing the Muslim community. And when we first started, we were extremely ambitious. We wanted to do all of these things in this community, but we didn't have any staff and we didn't have any resources. So that's when we turned to the community and we said, we have this vision, we want to build this chapter, and we need your help. I remember the first CAIR Minnesota banquet. We had, I think Jelani said there's over 600 people here. That first banquet, we had less than 100 people come. And many of you, I remember, were actually there and supported the organization. I remember Congressman Ellison was our speaker, and we were all really surprised that he had agreed to speak because it was at a time when we really didn't have any cases. We had not done the work to really show the community. But surprisingly, people still supported us. They donated to this organization when we had really nothing to show for it. They saw that vision. They shared that vision that the founding group had. So it really was about, ensuring, like I said, ensuring that everyone is treated with respect and dignity. That has been the premise of this organization from throughout our days. I'll give you some of our early case examples that we had worked on. We had 300 Muslim employees in St. Cloud who were denied the legal right to break their Ramadan fast at work. This includes the Jewish student who failed a college exam because she had to miss a class for a religious holiday. And being unable to afford an attorney, she came to our office and asked for help. And we had handled lots of these cases involving Muslim students who were denied accommodation due to missing school for Eid and prayers. So we were able to help her with that. The Muslim students were physically assaulted and had food thrown at them in high school on a daily basis until CAIR Minnesota intervened. The Muslim woman who was told to remove her religious headscarf in order to continue with her job interview. The immigrants who were forced to speak English to each other at their warehouse job where they didn't interact with any customers, even during their breaks. The Muslim family who was detained at the airport and asked questions such as, how many times do you pray? Which religious textbooks do you read at Sunday? Do your kids read at Sunday school?
What? Why are you laughing? Calm down. I was waiting for the lights to go down. Have I met most of you before? No? On Instagram? Stop playing. I don't have that many followers. All right, well, my name is Danish. It's spelled Danish. That's just the name, you know. When I was in first grade, I had a teacher named Mrs. Danish. And one time in class, in front of everybody, she was like, you know, if we got married, your name would be Danish Danish. I knew at 6 that this was inappropriate. I didn't even know the word inappropriate, but I knew the feeling. I started thinking about this more recently. I got even more upset. Who's this lady over here trying to apply her dominance? If anything, she's going to be Mrs. MacBoo. I ain't no punk, you know. I'm a man, even at 6, you know. This was a good event to sit through, right? Did you guys have fun tonight? Did everybody have fun? I like stuff with a cause, okay? Like I have a homegirl at home who's always doing charity stuff. So she's just volunteering my services, okay? Which is fine, it's fine. But let me get your opinion on this. What do you guys think about this? I did this one charity show, right? All proceeds going to charity. Tickets to the show were $5. However, there was a pre-sale where you could get tickets for $3. All proceeds going to charity. Aren't you kind of mean if you bought tickets during the pre-sale? You wanted to save some soda money, so you deprive some kid of water for a month, right? That's real. That's what I thought. And then I came to this, and I saw the tickets were $50, and my first thought was, when's the pre-sale? $50 is a lot of money. And then when I heard 10,000, my whew. That's nice though, man. That's what we need. That's what we need. We need help, right? Can't get enough help. I don't know, man. I have a funky dad. Anybody have a funky dad? You got a funky dad? Is he sitting at the table with you? Yeah, right next to you? The disrespect, man. Oh. My dad's funky too, man. He's not here, that's why I'm saying that. You know. My dad's always saying, Danish, excess of anything is a poison. He says that excessively. It's really annoying. My dad, man, my dad. I remember the first and last time my dad beat me. That's how good the beating was. It never needed to happen again. I got the message. You know. It was third grade. It was parent-teacher conferences. And I would be acting up in school, right? And I knew what was coming. Because it was like my dad's first time going to parent-teacher conferences. You know, it's like his once in 8-year checkup on his son, right? And it was supposed to be good. And I knew it wasn't going to be good. So I'm like sitting at home watching The Simpsons, trying to get myself to feel better, right? Yeah, I'm watching The Simpsons, and all of a sudden the power cuts out, and this big looming figure with a Nerf gun 3000 attached to his head comes in and starts beating me. Yo, can we just say this? That's not a beating. Like when you cut the power, that's an operation, Can we say? It's a little deeper than a beating, right? Who cuts the power? Isn't that a weird go-to? He just funky. Like, look, all right. I got my license, right? And I got into a car accident the first week I got my license. Like, totaled my mom's car. Luckily, she was in Pakistan, so I told her over the phone, right? That was cool. And then I had to get the car fixed, all right? So I went and I got the car fixed, and I brought it home. And my dad started bugging out because the front license plate was missing. And he goes, Donish, don't you know that somebody could find that front license plate, put it on their car, commit a murder, and now you're going to go to jail for life? I was like, Dad, that sounds like a pretty good movie, man. You should write that down. We should see who's available, you know. It's just...
We want to thank Donish and everybody that spoke this evening. You've been in a fantastic audience, and thank you for all that you've donated to CAIR Minnesota. We just want to let you know as we end the program, anyone that had a silent auction item, don't forget to pick that up as you leave. They're going to be outside in the foyer for you as well. Thank you so much for participating and celebrating the 10th anniversary of CAIR Minnesota. Get home safely and warmly. Have a good evening.